I am calling this meeting to order, the Salton Sea Authority, Friday, June 20th. It's a special board meeting due to yesterday was Juneteenth. So thank you very much. We will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have Supervisor Cardenas Singh lead us. Please rise.
Thank you. Hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now can we have roll call?
President Dockstader.
Present.
Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Treasurer Kelly. Director Aguilar.
Here.
Director Singh.
Here.
Ex officio Joe Shea.
Are you on, Joe? I think you're there somewhere.
I see him online.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a
Thanks.
quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Madam President, I would suggest that while we wait for Chairman Morales to show up, that we move the federal presentation to the front of the agenda and have that go first.
I think that would be fabulous. So I will make that motion to have the federal part go first. Can I have a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader.
Aye.
Vice President Estrada.
Yes.
Director Aguilar.
Yes.
Director Singh.
Yes.
Ex officio Joe Shea. No. Motion passed.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving on to public comments. I see we have so many people in our audience today. Do we have any public comments, Lisa?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to board member comments at this point in time. Yay, Mr. Morales. Yay.
Listen, it's been a rough couple days for Torres Martinez, so.
That's okay. Does anybody have any board, we went ahead and started, we did the pledge. So does anybody have any board member comments at this time?
I do, Madam.
Oh, please.
Just want to take this opportunity to share that our County Board of Supervisors, we had an advocacy trip to Washington, D.C. during June the 2nd through the 5th. Just wanted to take this opportunity to share with you that we did have several conversations with our federal representatives. In doing so, we were making sure that we were advocating the urgency for federal investment and cross-agency coordination to address the environmental and public health crisis caused in regards to our receding Salton Sea. So just wanted to share that we made sure that we were on the forefront and advocating for efforts and funding for the Salton Sea. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? Any of the supervisors, directors online?
I do not.
Okay. Then we're going to go ahead, and we did have a little difference in the calendar, so we'll move on to the agenda, to federal reports. So Lisa Moore, you're up.
Good morning, sorry. I'm in a different time zone myself today, so Congress has been spending a lot of time on reconciliation legislation. That legislation passed the House in May, and now the Senate is consumed with that. That is the legislation that the administration is using to extend the tax cuts from the first Trump administration. Has a number of other pieces in it, including Medicaid. Largely, that's taking up most of the time in the House and the Senate. Nominations, however, are starting to get more interesting, at least in the Senate, where they come. We have two nominees. The Army Corps nominee is now pending on the calendar. for full Senate consideration. It will be good to have somebody in place there, given our feasibility study. Andrea, for Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, is still also pending on the calendar. I don't hear any problems with that nomination. It just takes time and scheduling and those sorts of things. We do have a new nominee known to many folks in the room on the call. Ted Cook has been nominated to be the Reclamation Commissioner. I think for the folks that are really engaged in the Colorado River, that is good news to have that moving forward. It will take several months for the administration to get that nominee through, not for any particular reason, but that there'll be meetings. And then a hearing and a markup, and all of that process will take some time.
Recording in progress.
For folks who are particularly interested in that nominee, it is a great time to, talk to your senators about, the meetings that they'll be having, with Ted to sort of raise issues, both. Senator Padilla is on the Senate Energy Committee, which is where that nomination will be referred to. So from here, that's mostly what has been going on. I would expect once reconciliation moves, which will, the target is July 4th. I think it probably will slip past that. We'll start seeing more work on appropriations moving forward, which is relevant to our Corps of Engineers work. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I don't have any questions at this time. Does anybody else? No. Okay, thank you for that report. And then I don't think we have anybody from the Bureau of Reclamation also online, right? Before I go back to consent calendar?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Going backwards, the consent calendar. If no one has any comments or discussions, and if we do not have any public comments for discussions for the consent calendar, I would invite a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morales.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Can I please have a roll call vote?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to the consideration of appointments for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, officers for the Salton Sea Authority Board of Directors. And I believe, Patrick, you have a few comments?
Madam President, we do have a reorganization of the board every year at this time. And the four positions that are appointed pursuant to our bylaws are the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. I did have conversations with Supervisor Gutierrez this week and his staff, and he has, as you know, has served well and faithfully as the treasurer and secretary of the board, but has indicated that because of his other commitments as supervisor, that he would like his name withdrawn from consideration as part of this process for this time. He will be working closely with me on other projects and endeavors, and I appreciate his service to the board and the community. I also would mention that, as I noted in the board, the way that the board has approached this in the past has done by individual appointments or by slate, and the board can act either way.
Thank you, Patrick. Does anybody have any discussion, anything else that we want to talk about when we talk about the slate and the next year coming up? Okay.
I see Director Estrada,
Oh, okay. Mr. Estrada, Director Estrada, excuse me.
Vice President.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yes, now I can.
Yeah, so I don't, I don't know if this is, we're taking nominations or not, but I do want to say that,
We are.
that I feel that we've, this past year has been a very critical year with a lot of what was going on with Prop 4 and the standing up of the Conservancy. And I think this next year is going to be critical. It's going to be very important also as we have to kind of work through that conservancy. And so those are my comments. I don't know if we're taking nominations now, but or if you're going around the room for just general comments.
I'm doing either.
All right. Well, with that, what I'd like to do, kind of following up on my comments, is I've given this some thought, and I would nominate President Dockstader to serve another year. I think you've done an amazing job. I think I've seen how much effort you've put into representing the Salton Sea Authority up and down the state. You've really, I think, have played a very critical role on issues related to the Conservancy, as I mentioned, on issues related to Proposition 4. I think you've guided conversations related to Colorado River conservation measures. I think you've advocated for the Salton Sea to ensure that those things don't have a significant impact on the Salton Sea. You've also worked to build more capacity for the Salton Sea Authority. I think it's the reason why we have CB Strategies now on board. And as I mentioned, I think these efforts are still not fully wrapped. We haven't put a bow on it yet, so we're still going to have to work through the Conservancy. I think we have some strategic plans that we want to put together with the help of CB Strategies. And so, for those reasons, I think it's important. It's been beneficial for you to remain as president for one more year. And so, with that, I would make a motion to nominate President Dockstader to remain as president for the next year.
Thank you so much, Vice President Estrada. I appreciate that. My head is exploding as you're seeing me right now. So I appreciate the vote of confidence, 100%. So thank you.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay. So if that's then we will go one at a time, unless we wanted to do a whole slate. But I'm fine with going either way. But I appreciate. Is there any more discussion? Does anybody want to take me out? Well, it has been moved and seconded, so I will happily take the position. So could we have a roll call vote, Lisa?
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Morales,
Yes.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Singh.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Vice President, I'm going to go ahead and turn around and do the same thing with Vice President Estrada because he has also been instrumental and has helped in so many ways and is available when we need him to be. So that is going to be one of my recommendations. I don't know if anybody else has.
I'll second if you're doing a nomination.
Yes, I am. Okay. So there's been a motion by President Dockstader. I forget which organization I am. And then seconded by Morales. So can we take a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Morales,
Yes.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Singh.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to Secretary. If no one's going to, I would like to nominate Supervisor Singh. It's weird. I do Cardenas Singh, so I'm all mixed up.
It's fine.
Everybody calls you just Singh. That's wrong. So that's just something that I'm throwing out there. Does anybody else have any suggestions? Any?
I'll second that one as well.
Okay. Then can we go ahead and have a roll call vote on that one as well?
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Morales,
Yes.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Singh.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, last one is treasurer of the board.
Madam President, if I can, I'd like to take this opportunity to nominate Director Morales, please, for the treasurer position.
Excellent.
I'm okay with that.
That is fabulous. Okay, if there's no further discussion, can we have a roll call vote?
Vice President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, we have our new slate. Thank you very much. Yay. No bloodshed even. That's pretty good.
Those are the best elections.
That's true.
So-
Moving,
So with the new slate, Madam President, we need to pass resolutions reflecting those appropriate signatories to our Bank of California account and our local agency information fund. There are two resolutions in your package which have to be passed separately.
oh, separately, thank you. Oh. So can we pass then, can I have a motion for resolution 25 dash, we don't know yet, Bank of California, regular checking?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, Vice President Estrada second. Thank you very much. Can we have a roll call vote?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And moving on to the next resolution to update the signatory on the local agency investment fund. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Morales, Director Morales. And then I will go ahead and make the second, President Dockstader. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Excellent. Moving on to the Aqua endorsement and support. Let's hear it, Patrick. I can't wait.
Madam President, I've had the honor of serving on Aqua's statewide board for the last 10 years as Region 9 Chair, Region 9 Vice Chair, and also representing the statewide association as the chair of its federal affairs. The second resolution deals with my vice chair, who is running for Aqua Vice President. So there will be a new person on the board in the coming months, and I just felt that staying on with some consistency was important, so I offered my name up, subject to this board's approval via authorization, to continue to serve on the statewide board. And in order to do that, I need a resolution.
I will definitely support you in that resolution, as I was on the board, or am currently on the board for a limited time only. But you do a great job, Patrick. You're always present. You're always there, always available. So I'm more than happy to support that.
But I only today learned that I'm supposed to be banging the gavel 3 times to open a meeting.
Now you know all those little fun facts. So I will make the motion to endorse Patrick for Aqua Region 9 Chair, Vice Chair.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to the next resolution to endorse the candidacy of Carol Lee Gonzalez Brady for Aqua Vice President.
As I mentioned, Carol Lee serves with me as the vice chair of Region 9 right now. She also serves on Aqua's executive committee. She is a director of Rancho Water in Temecula. And I know that both IID and CVWD have already passed resolutions in support of Ms. Gonzalez Brady, and I'm recommending to this board that we do so also.
I will make that motion. I love Carol. She's fabulous.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by myself, seconded by Director Morales. Can we please have a roll call vote?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to Proposition 4 update from Cruise Strategies.
Madam President, as you know, we recently engaged the Cruise Strategies team to work with us in statewide matters, and they've been burrowing into the Proposition 4 situation, and I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Steve Cruz to provide an update and direction to the board as far as the support he needs in his efforts. And you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Great. Thanks, Patrick. And good morning. President Dr. Snyder and members. We had an opportunity to speak with you at your last board meeting, so it's a pleasure to be before you again. Hopefully, we can be there in person at some point in the near future. But Nick Romo from Career Strategies is also on the line. And so we wanted to provide a brief update on our efforts in Sacramento. What's in front of us at the moment in terms of the ability to influence our policy and funding on your behalf, of course, is the Prop 4 allocation. And so our engagement, when it started, we know that process was underway, is to ensure to elevate the presence of the authority in Sacramento on these type of issues. And that's for not just this purpose, but beyond. And so we have been able to connect with members of our delegation, legislators that have an interest in the Salton Sea, and then, of course, focused on the administration and folks like Mr. Joe Shea, who are directly involved in Prop 4 allocation and other issues, of course. And I see him on the phone, so hello to you, Mr. Shea. And then the legislators are important on this effort are the chairs of the budget subcommittees that have jurisdiction over this budget item. So we've been very focused in sort of educating folks and reminding them of the history and the work that you've done with Salton Sea restoration, ecosystem, and economic development related items or issues rather. And so just to get into this, the 10 million and where we are in the process. So the legislators had to vote on a budget on June 15th, which they did to meet their constitutional deadline. The work on the final framework of the main budget is happening as we speak. And there are pieces of it that are being put together like over the weekend. The vehicle for the Prop 10 allocation was set aside. And it may have been because of other factors, but certainly our request was to give us more time to determine what the appropriate role, what the appropriate level is. And I think we got, folks' attention on that. And so while they work to sort of wrap up the budget, we believe, the vehicle will be, the resources bill. And so we will have some time over the next couple of weeks to try to influence that. I know Patrick made reference to it. One of I think the factors that were key to this is to hear directly from some of you directors and your agencies to support our efforts. So we can kind of go into that too, Patrick, if you like, in terms of some of our specific ask. But that I know has been key to our ability to, have a place at the table. Nick, I'm going to see if you have anything to add to that before we open it up to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, board. Thank you, Madam President. So to underscore what Steve said, really hit the ground running to elevate the role of the authority in these discussions, particularly as legislators. They have 1,000 pieces of the budget they're trying to bring together. We were able to elevate the authority's position and history of success and leadership in the region to really set the table for what will be a kind of a fair and equitable deliberation over the summer. And where Steve left off is, we really heard one of the themes that came about was really need to hear from the local agencies their value proposition and making sure that the Salton Sea Authority and the Conservancy funds are fairly distributed. So over the next month, the legislature is in session until July 18th. Then they go on a summer recess. So we certainly would appreciate and happy to support any way we can your voice being elevated in this process. So that means speaking with your local legislators, submitting letters, and working closely with us and Joe and his partners and all of the legislators that we're cultivating as champions for us in the process. So we'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions. But certainly some good news, and certainly gives us an opportunity to continue elevating the authority throughout the rest of the process here.
And Nick, I would just add, I know we're talking about sort of timing and then overall our engagement, but there are like specific asks and contained in material that we provided in communication. We've submitted formal requests to how we'd like to see the funds allocated. and try to be nimble and responsive to both what we heard from the administration and the legislators. So we are there are very specific like ask related to our engagement here.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions at this time?
Yes, Vice President Estrada and Director Aguilar both have questions.
Let's do Vice President Estrada first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Romo. I just wanted to get a better sense of the timing that we have to try to get some of the funding. And I heard you say July 18th before we go into recess. Is that the deadline for us to figure something out?
Well, I guess I could start, Nick. You hate to say like now, but time is of the essence, and Joe will know, but I probably can't disclose. But it could be in the main budget vehicle, which for now they've said this appropriation wouldn't be part of it, but it would be in a trailer bill, and we don't know which one, and we don't know when it'll be released. But generally, after they approve the budget, which will be before July 1st, then you'll see the trailer bills will get voted on it. So Nick, I don't know if you want to chime in here. And I apologize because it's not as concrete as when you have a bill, the deadlines. The trailer bills will pop. But I would just say now is when we need to act. It could happen over the next several weeks. I don't know, Nick, if you can help. Sorry, Director.
Let me follow up on that. That way, Nick,
Yeah.
if you have other information to share, it might be helpful. So the main bill that has a vote on July 1st. And if it's not on the main bill, then it's going to come up through some the other bills that don't have the deadlines. And do those all come in before July 18th, or when is the deadline to submit another bill?
Yeah, so we should be seeing additional bills that sort of provide clarity to the budget between July 1st and July 18th before they go to the summer recess. When they take that vote is kind of unknown, TBD at this point. But to answer your question, Director Estrada, I think over the next 2.5 weeks, getting letters, getting calls in is the critical time so that the legislators know where you stand on this issue, and that they can have a chance, and we will have a chance to continue to influence those discussions. So,
And, okay, good. And one more thing is in our conversations, have we proposed a split between the Conservancy and the Salton Sea Authority? And have we had those types of conversations with Senator Padilla?
Yeah, we have formally submitted a proposal that would split the appropriation equally between the Conservancy and the Authority. We've shared that with Senator Padilla's office, and I don't know, Nick, you've spoken with Alexis, but we don't have a response. And I know that there may have been some interactions like with some of our folks directly with Senator Padilla, which is what we're looking for more from all of you. But we don't have a formal response, but we have formally submitted that to his office.
All right, I'll make one last comment, and then I know others have comments. So I'll just say with what you said, it sounds like we don't have a lot of time here. So I think Patrick, it would be critical for you to try to come up with a plan on self-imposing some type of deadline for us to gather letters of support, to do kind of like a final push before, say, July 1st or something like that. But I think we should have a game plan for that if we're trying to get letters and things like that. So something to keep in mind. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have draft letters, both from the authority, from the member agencies, and from other stakeholders for this purpose, and they're ready to go. But I do agree, and we will work on important milestones for making sure this is all timely accomplished.
Thank you. Let's move on to Director Aguilar.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, Director Estrada covered most of what I was going to mention or ask, but I do have a question regarding the direct ask. So the $5 million that we're asking for, is that tied to specific action items, and what are those?
Uh, I don't know, Nick or Patrick, do you want to provide that? I have it here and I could discuss it, but I don't know if you wanted to do it, Patrick. Otherwise, we can cover it.
I can touch on it. We can find a whole lot more than $5 million worth of immediate need for that. And I think that part of this process is working together with the state to identify who does what and how those resources are being allocated. Right now, the state has all $10 million associated with the Conservancy, and that funds their costs for the next 5 years using those bond funding. We think that certainly the latter part of those years, collectively and collaboratively, we can find alternative sources for those fundings. But we have specific needs on the feasibility study for outreach and engagement. The Conservancy will require some action in that regard, and we haven't worked out with the state how that's going to get done, but those two should be knitted together in a seamless fashion. And then you have the unknown costs associated with both the Desert Shores project, the North Lake project, and any other community-centric project that we might be able to advance if those funds are available. The key, if I knew the exact dollar amount that was going to be available, we could assign this board could prioritize how those funds would be used. I would be looking for direction from the board as far as how those funds would be used, but there's myriad opportunities to use those funds for the benefit of the community in partnership with the state to address the most pressing needs. And I think that that's everybody's objective, is to make sure that 100% of those funds are used for their highest and best purpose, and that's what this conversation is for.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I think that answers part of my question. I just think that if I'm a legislator or if I'm a chief of staff or a legislator, and having the conversations for advocacy, they're going to want to know probably more specific takes on where this money is going to go. So I think it's great what we've done so far, but I think we should be prepared to at some point be more specific. I don't know when that is. Patrick, you would know that. But when and if that happens, I think that would help. And those are my comments, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will have to say I'm on the same page that way too, because it's fine to ask for half the money, but when you don't know exactly what project, where that particular money is going, then it's a lot less likely that you're going to get that money, because when you just come in for a blind ask for half, it's tough to get.
Right.
So that,
I agree.
yeah.
I'm happy to share a bit more. Thank you for that comment. And we have received those kind of some of that feedback from legislators, and we, working with under Patrick's leadership, have started, have laid out for them, how we see this money to be spent. And so a significant amount to support joint efforts between the state and the authority on the federal feasibility study, the community outreach, direct coordination work, to support the Conservancy as they're getting stood up, in addition to a funding allocation to the North Lake pilot demonstration project, as well as the Desert Shores. Again, we are understanding given the scale of the work and scope of the work, that the 10 million or 5 million, is a modest amount. However, we did want to outline for them the good uses we're going to put to the money, and certainly have dedicated and signaled to them that we're willing to earmark some of these funds for specific activities, including outreach, community work, project delivery. So we have put those things on the table. You'll see that in some of the communications that we sent to you in terms of the letters we're asking you to write. And so certainly thank you for that, and we're responding directly to those comments.
Yeah, I understand. We have a 4-page matrix that we have shared with Mr. Shea, very specific on each area. What we've tried to do is focus on the things that you can do that you're best at, and then try to find a lane so that you are supportive of what the Conservancy is doing, but not redundant. And so, we have provided very specific, sort of targeted language that is net with legislators, with the administration. But I know that we hear you loud and clear, and we try to be responsive even initially to make sure that we're very specific. and how we'll use those dollars.
Great,
The
thank
last
you.
thing last comment I'll make is I think a part of this process, iterative process with the budget is we get language into the budget, trailer bill, and then that gets voted upon. So we secure the funds, and then discussions can continue on specific criteria and allocations for the activities and the deadlines for each of those kind of benchmarks. So I think where we're at in phase one here in this project, in terms of the budget, is secure the funding, secure the support, and then that happens throughout this fiscal year and next to really plan and utilize the funding. And I think the board being part of that discussion is critical.
Great.
Thank you. And I am going to ask, just because Joe Shea, his camera popped on, did you want to say something? You don't have your hand up though, so.
Director Estrada has his hand up. Does Director Estrada want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment before you go, Joe. Just maybe you could it'll help maybe with some of your comments. But I'll just mention that as you were all talking about identifying potential needs for funding, it's my understanding that the feasibility study with the Army Corps still has some funding needs in the next years or so. So just wanted to point that out. I know that we've talked about having some cost shares between the feds and the state, and so those future commitments I think still have to be identified, and I would think that maybe some of this could be a potential for that. And so that's all I wanted to share.
If I could just on that is part of, I think part of the request, and that the value of that is that it allows the authority to have, its own resources that it's bringing to the joint, as a joint local sponsor, which we don't, that those resources come from the state right now. It is a really, for us to be able to do that is a powerful statement to the feds. We have a little bit of a different voice in Congress relative to the state as sort of the local representatives of kind of on this issue. And so it really, it would be really impactful to be able to have that. It would be in all likelihood creditable towards the cost share that's required on the study. So you kind of get a big bang for the buck in investing some of these bond resources towards that end. And I think, as our advocates have, I think they're doing a great job in Sacramento. They're making the point that this feasibility study helps to kind of reduce potentially the future fiscal responsibility that they're going to have to come up with resources for the long range plan. And so I think it really, it is one of the, I believe, primary things that they've been advocating for, and that's why, to your point, Director Estrada.
Thank you, Lisa. Joe, do you have any comments before we move on?
I really don't. I appreciate the conversation. Hold on, I've got it.
You have an Amazon delivery?
A cranky animal with me.
It's the dog.
Sorry. So I would just say I really appreciate the feedback here and this discussion. I turned on my camera because I know folks were mentioning the state, and so just want to be clear that we're listening to all of this. I would also just as the budget conversations play out, it's always challenging to predict where we're going to land. And my biggest thought here is just wanting folks to focus on our priorities and how that relates to projects, and not necessarily specific dollar figures. I mean, I just want to remind folks that the $10 million pot that we're talking about is part of a broader $10 billion bond where there will be other opportunities. And so to the extent that there are not specific asks and specific kind of areas that like might slot into kind of this pot of funding, I have no doubt that there are going to be other opportunities for us to collaborate and to go for, even bigger pots of funding that will help us deliver projects. But certainly want to keep the conversations going on all fronts because, as I've said many times, the authorities' priorities are our priorities, and we want to make sure that, whether it's the Army Corps study, the North Lake pilot, or the Desert Shores project, that we're doing everything we can. We're bringing the full weight of our program to help deliver these projects.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Your glass isn't just half full, it's all the way full. I like it. I like it. If there's no further discussion, then can we move on to the amended scope and contract for CV Strategies? Unless someone else has. Let's move on.
So I would begin this item by mentioning that this is one of several cost categories that we can and would use the funding for. As part of the memo in your board packet, you'll notice that there is a budget for a preliminary scope of work that would need to be refined in collaboration with the state for outreach, engagement, education on both the feasibility study, the Conservancy, Colorado River concerns that might be addressed, and other public relations issues that the authority, its member agencies, and the state can work together on. It's difficult for us to do without adequate resourcing, and we believe that that's why the bond money was set aside for our behalf to help the state be successful. Part of that, as you know, this board brought CV Strategies on board about a little over 6 months ago, to develop an outreach campaign for the authority, and that was presented at a previous board meeting. They're still completing the work, refining some of the issues that were identified, the questions that were raised during that process. What we are wanting to do, but as part of that and part of their diligence, they've uncovered more than they thought they were getting into. It took a little longer and cost a little more than they thought it would. So there's two separate requests contained in the memo that's provided to the board. One is there's an additional $7,000, which was available in the budget. I'd like to make that available for the completion of this work for fiscal year 24. And then within our next year's budget, which the board approved at our last meeting, there is an item on there for $5,000 a month, which I specifically put in there to engage with the CV Strategies or an appropriate firm to work with us on public relations generally as we work to refine the scopes of work that would be funded from the bond fundings or other resources as they come available. So it's $5,000 a month for the next 6 months to have CV Strategies work with the authority on the website, media presence, tours, our agendas, resolutions, working with our advocates in Sacramento and DC and getting some of these letters and whatnot put together and properly distributed. I think and over that 6 months, hopefully we can work together with the state to refine the work that's needed for the feasibility study, to refine the work that's appropriate for the Conservancy and otherwise, and set aside budgets on both sides of the ledger so that we can get the work done responsibly. And with that, Madam President, I recommend approval of the board of items A and B in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so the $5,000 a month that was in the budget is predicated on the Prop 4 funding?
No.
Funding?
No, that $5,000 is
Was already
not,
in there.
is fully funded by the member contributions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But the
Got it.
$300,000 to $400,000 that is reflected on the budget that's attached as an exhibit with the schedule is contingent on supplemental funding from
Okay.
whatever source
Okay,
or sources.
okay. But we already have that in our budget for the $5,000 a month, the 6-month agreement.
We
That's
have it
already-
we have it, Madam President, for the full 12 months.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I'm recommending for 6 months
Okay.
to give us time to work through these other issues so that
Mm-hmm.
we can define a more complete scope of work and determine how best to handle it on a going forward basis beyond that.
Is there any other further discussion? Well, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the amended scope and contract for CV Strategies. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, Director Morales seconds. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to the USBR grant modification request, Desert Shores.
So this is a fairly pressing issue, Madam President. We have a grant from the Bureau of Reclamation for $1.25 million to address the conditions at North Shore. The intent when the grant was originally issued, as outlined in the memo, was to build a berm, drill a well, and fill the lake with water. But as we got into the project, we realized that it's far more technically complicated than was originally anticipated. At our meeting, at a recent meeting, this board approved a scope of work for hydrologic and geologic testing from Nicholas Engineering to determine what project will be feasible and achievable for that project. But because of the way the grant is structured, we need to reclassify money within the grant from construction to design and engineering. And we just need to make a formal written request to the Bureau for that. They have actually requested that we make this request, and I just need board authorization to make that request, as outlined in the memo.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? At this time, I will entertain a motion. Someone want to make?
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
And I will go ahead and second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the USBR grant modification request. Can we please have a roll call vote?
President Dockstader?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Morales?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Singh?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Unanimously. Moving on to project updates, North Lake Demonstration Project.
Madam President, I hope to have a more complete update on the North Lake project at our next board meeting. We have been working closely with the state to identify and refine the revised project scope based on the geotechnical and engineering work that was done on that site, which reduces the lake to approximately a 30-acre lake and introduces a new concept of wetlands, which are being designed to actually treat the water that is being used for the site. But we do have additional work going on, and I think I'll be in a position at our next board meeting to provide a more comprehensive report.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. And Bombay Beach?
And Bombay Beach, my understanding is that is being transferred, if it has not already been transferred, to the state as one of their SSMP projects for implementation.
Okay. We've already covered federal reports. Moving on to state. Well, we sort of covered that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't believe we have, Mr. Cruz, do you have anything else to add before I skip you and move on?
Nope. I just heard state, so I just wanted to make sure to be available just in case. Thank you.
I don't believe Mr. Hernandez is on from State of California.
No, I don't see him online.
Okay, I don't either. And I also don't think we have a Salton Sea Recreation.
He's here.
Oh, he is here. There you are. Hello, Taylor. Because I can't pronounce your last name. Apologies.
Good morning.
You have the floor.
Unzicker. It's Unzicker. You just
Unzicker.
Yeah. It looks confusing with all the Z and the U and stuff, but so good morning. Good to see y'all. Just some updates on visitation. Some interesting trends. So for the month of April and May, we are down on visitation compared year over year to last year. So in April for visitor center attendance, down 22%, and in May, down 35%. For day use, we're down 27% in April and down 39% in May. And then for camping, down 21% in April, down 17% in May. That's 2025 versus 2024. Interesting trend because we were up in November, December, and January, and then we are down year over year in February, March, April, May, essentially. So overall, the yearly numbers are pretty similar. So nothing more to add there, just kind of interesting tidbits of information. I will say we had upticks in previous years from Coachella and Stagecoach during those months, but this year we didn't really see that. So didn't look too much into what their attendance was to see how that would be affected. Other than that, we held a California State Parks Week event last week, hosting a night sky event, just kind of continuing our normal outreach to the community and having people come out for programs. So that's all I have. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any.
I don't have questions per se, and thank you, Taylor. Actually, I really look forward to your updates because I like all these crazy fun facts. But I would just throw out there for Coachella Fest, everybody was complaining about the heat. So it would follow my logic that they didn't want to be out in the heat because they were so hot. So I bet you that's one of the reasons. But interesting that that it's shifting when people are visiting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I like that kind of thing. So, anybody else have any comments?
I have a question. So Taylor, have you done any work with the tribe on doing cultural events at the state park? Because I know our family, we own land on opposite side of the lake, where the state park is, and we usually have our family goes out and does bird songs under the moonlight. So we have our own family events that we have. But I know that we would be interested in probably collaborating and having those events at the state park area so we can get more people over there. Because I know we have a couple of displays and stuff there. But it'd be good if we can figure out how we can collaborate with one another so we can have more cultural events there so we can get, more people interested in going to the state park.
Yep, so I'm 100% behind that. Feel free to reach out to me. We have had, there's a project for the recognizing the lands for the state park, state recreation area. So we've had representatives with Agua Caliente and some other bands and stuff. So completely open to that.
Okay.
Would love to work with you on that. Feel free to reach out. Let me know if you need my phone number and information.
I'll get your contact information because I know our cultural committee is working on our annual cultural plan, and I want to make sure we add some of that in there prior to us getting our tribe to approve it. Because like I said, we already have events there, so it just makes sense to connect the dots.
We would love that.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
I think that's something that the authority and its members more broadly would like to help facilitate. I know IID also is conducting some tours that we want to make sure that are being properly and as broadly promoted as possible. So if we can work together on that, that would be awesome.
That's fabulous. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Ron Spears had a comment.
Okay. Mr. Spears, you're on. You have to probably unmute your mic, I'm guessing. Plus, I can't see you, so it's weird. Ron Spears, do you have a question? Try again. Maybe we muted.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
We got it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my hand was raised for the Bureau of Reclamation modification discussion that you had. Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Good morning, and to the board, good morning, and congratulations on your reappointment. You're very valued. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm representing. I'm a board of director of the Bahia Del Mar Property Owners Association, and also chairman of the Oversight Committee for the Desert Shores Project under the Bahia Del Mar POA. And for the modification, Executive Director Dowd explained what it was for, which I appreciate. But as chairman of the Oversight Committee, we would like to see the amount of distribution, dollar value, and the purposes for the disbursements from the grant that have been given to Nicholas Engineering or proposed to be given to Nicholas Engineering and GAFCON, because we can't do any oversight unless we actually know what is being spent and what it is being spent on.
Okay.
So I'm on record to officially request a
financial breakdown. A financial breakdown.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We can certainly do that, Madam President.
Okay. And will you email? How will you get that to him?
We will email it to you. I would note that all of the funds being expended are pursuant to contracts that were approved by the board, and we can also provide copies of those contracts if you would like. So, but absolutely, we can get you a detailed accounting of every dollar that's been spent against the bond.
Thank you, Mr.
And thanks for asking, Ron.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay. Moving on, I think Taylor is probably off the hook. Moving on to Salton Sea Action Committee. I don't think, was Alan Pace there? But obviously I didn't see Mr. Spears, so. No, okay. Now Patrick's up. Let's hear your fabulous executive director report.
So we covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time today. Some of those things I'm actually working on. All of those things I'm actually working on. But I did want to update the board briefly on the feasibility study. Let me turn my mic on. I did want to update the board briefly on the feasibility study. One issue that is and will be critical to the success of that study is a proper assessment of the hydrology of the sea now and into the future for developing the future projects. And the Corps had been working with UCR for some time, trying to develop a scope and a contract to do that work, but that was just proved unachievable. And so recently they began negotiating with the Department of Water Resources, who has done a lot of this work already. And I think they've come up with a framework to do that work under the DWR and have it reviewed by the Corps professionals. And I think that we're getting pretty close on that. And I personally think that's great news, because I think that, you know, the DWR has a wealth of existing knowledge, and the Tetra Tech team that's been involved with that has done a lot of work around the sea. So that should help advance things. We're also working. We started a sidecar exercise, if you will, working on the early increment projects. Mr. Chairman, one of them is actually in the northeastern quadrant of the sea that I'd like to chat with you about in more detail, just to make sure you and your people are up to speed on what's going on there and are actively involved in it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is at our next board meeting, I do have plans to. I know in the on the web there was an article in the Desert Sun and an article in the LA Times about the health and safety concerns that are being expressed. So I thought I would.
Odor.
I thought odor. It's odor. So next month we'll talk about odor and associated effects on people and what's being done about that.
Okay.
And the appropriate role that the authority should play in that. So I intend to bring that forward next month. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Patrick.
And again, I see Joe popped up, so I don't know if he wanted to. If you're on the Jumbotron, Joe, you got to say something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I need to see what this Jumbotron looks like in real life. Maybe I won't go on camera. But I just wanted to add to Patrick's report, or just point out to the board that what's happening with our team and getting involved to assist the hydrological study for the feasibility study is just another example, I think, of our team trying to go above and beyond, doing whatever it takes to get these priorities of the authority, which again are priorities of ours, are priorities of the broader Salton Sea region, to get this feasibility study moving. It's a big lift for our team. It's not work that's undertaken lightly, but we're doing whatever we can here, and just wanted to point out and express appreciation for the folks on our team who eagerly kind of jumped into this, because they know how important it is to all of us, and even though it's beyond some of their thoughts on how they would be initially involved, it's really important.
Thank you, Joe. And you can't leave until we see the dog. Can you just pick up the dog? Can we just see it? Just.
Give me a sec. Let me go get her.
All right.
Okay, go get the dog. So then we talked about items for the next meeting, public health and safety, board committee assignments.
Yes, that's something we do routinely, the meeting after the new committee is seated.
And so our next meeting time and location, bearing no Juneteenth, no July 4th holiday, no craziness, no
Tour.
tour. Yes.
There he is.
Oh, cute.
This is Canela.
Canela.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cute.
Yes.
What kind of dog is that?
She is a Yorkie poodle.
Oh,
Yorkie poodle.
12 pounds. Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
She's from Elk Grove, California.
There you go.
She probably likes the humidity for her hair.
Adorable.
For her.
Super cute.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you, President Dockstader.
I know.
Exactly.
So, our next meeting will be July 17th on Thursday, 10 a.m. at Coachella Valley, Steve Roberts Administration Building. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, everybody, for shifting your schedules to a happy Friday. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Seriously, I would really like to see that there is a place for more active involvement from maybe Chennai or somebody that be involved in those discussions as they